Hello, and welcome to Talking Souls here at Northern Undead Asylum. I am one half of your host team, Wilson Rebello, and 45 degrees to my left, I have the other half of host, G.
Hello.
Now, before we continue with the charades, games, and Watch Mojo Hate Club, we have a special bulletin. It's This Week in Gaming News. GameStop shares hit an all-time high this week after Elon Musk name-dropped them while promoting his new hipster-approved way of toking on a marijuana cigarette. Kevin Hart joins the Borderlands movie cast, announcing he will be playing the role of Roland, causing fan uproar that he will not be playing Claptrap. After a long and arduous process, Biomutant was given a release date, setting the small community of cat-loving kung fu obsessives something to shout about. And finally, Capcom is charging fans £1,500 for a replica of Chris Redfield's Resident Evil Village coat. We say, don't bother, we've already found a much cheaper alternative.
So that was This Week in Gaming News. As always, I'm going to pose the question that we pose each week to each other. This week it's my turn. Wilson, what have you been playing this week and this week only?
I thought I would roll the clock back all the way to June 2020, many moons ago. Of course, a blockbuster was released.
Okay.
Highly anticipated, highly pissed on. The Last of Us Part 2. I know you haven't played it yet.
I've not played it yet. I am still wading my way through the numerous titles that I've got to try and get through. Dark Souls, I have done. Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3 is ongoing, and I still have a library of games to get through before I get through to The Last of Us 2. I've played the first one, absolutely loved it. Love my zombie games, not so much my zombie films. Tell us a bit about The Last of Us 2 without any spoilers. Is it possible?
It is very, very possible.
Okay.
Not like the community of hackers
Yep.
that eventually destroyed the release of the game back in May/June. Amazing game, absolute masterpiece in my eyes from start to finish.
Yep.
A lot of the criticism I feel like was quite unjust.
Okay.
Of course, there was a bit of an underbelly of homophobia, really, to the whole game.
Do you think that's where some of the? Are you absolutely positive that that's where some of the slander sort of?
When I was on YouTube listening to criticism videos, I actually got quite invested in this because it infuriated me. When I played the game, I was waiting for it to get bad, or I was waiting for the moment that I thought Naughty Dog have really messed this game up.
Okay.
It never came.
Right.
So I started watching the criticism videos on YouTube, and I felt like people were nitpicking very small parts of the game here and there because it felt like there was a massive homophobic undertone.
Right.
So
Ellie is obviously lesbian. So in the first game there was an add-on, which sort
of an add-on. Left Behind.
That sort of introduced us to basically Ellie's orientation.
Yeah.
Awesome part of the game.
Yeah.
Which
was loved.
Yeah, it gave much more gravitas to sort of Ellie's situation. Made the bond even stronger between sort of her and Joel. I thought, and do you know, if that is the case, then I'm going to go into it with absolutely no problems whatsoever. You know, it doesn't. I just don't know where that even comes from, to be honest. So.
Also, I feel like people didn't like the way that the story played out, and what the sort of where big moments happened in the game. I'm really trying hard not to spoil it now.
Okay,
it's actually becoming quite difficult.
Okay.
People didn't like the way it was structured.
Right.
I thought to represent a very harsh and brutal land filled with an apocalypse. I thought it was very just that the story was like that. I don't think you can expect roses and bloody rainbows during a a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very dangerous world.
I saw which a pandemic that we're going through. It's almost like a social commentary of what's going on now.
Although at least we can go to the shops.
We can go to the shops, but you know, there's all this whole like, I mean, you know, we try not to get political on the show, but why not? I mean, there's a whole sort of right-wing culture that is sort of bleeding through, and it is bleeding through to games. In fact, you've just kind of lent in towards someone who I like to give a shout out, and that's to Mule, who I would love to invite on the show. He's a good friend of mine.
Nice.
He does a lot of streams sort of in Twitch across on, you know, he started out with games and then slowly has become much more of a political figure. He went viral this week for a video that he made on sort of right-wing-ism in gaming, and how it kind of muddies the waters and kind of, you know, disturbs people's enjoyment. I'm probably not putting it into the best context that I could. We'll invite Mule into the show to kind of talk about that, but it's definitely something.
Going off what you were saying, there's definitely an element to a few select YouTubers with a lot of followers who were shading on Last of Us 2 and Naughty Dog because of their political allegiance.
Okay.
Which I think is ridiculous, you know. Unless you're playing a game that's Hitler Simulator, then I can understand why a political situation would be brought into it.
Yeah.
But the fact that they criticise Last of Us 2 because of the developers' political allegiances, I think that probably takes away from the game. And a great game was then had a lot of shade put on it by a huge part of the community. But I know that there's people out there who absolutely adore it like me. Yeah. I genuinely thought it was a masterpiece from start to finish.
Do you think, sorry to interrupt there, but do you think it'll sort of interrupt other people's processes when they go to develop games in the future? Do you think they'll slide away from sort of getting into sort of politics or orientation, or whether someone's white or black, and whether they decide to give them a lead? Do you think it'll have any influence on it?
Not on AAAs, maybe on indies massively. Okay. Indies have got a lot to lose, haven't they? When they're making the game, they're putting all their eggs in that basket. Yeah. And you know, if they have a sort of clear vision that crosses ties with something that could be considered politically controversial, but what isn't politically controversial today, then I think it could affect the judgment and the way that the game comes out. AAAs, they've got a little bit more of a push, and I feel like as long as there's nothing too controversial, then they'll probably stick to the guns. I mean, Naughty Dog should, you know, Neil Druckmann did an amazing job again. Everything down from the mechanics to the story, the narrative, the graphics. There wasn't a bad part about the game in my eyes. So hopefully, just to finish it off though, you play it and then we can talk about the spoilers.
Okay, we'll talk about the spoilers.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a little bit why? So obviously the other part of the controversy is how many awards The Last of Us 2 got. Do you think that's the gaming industry trying to kick back at that? Do you think that's trying to say that people, you know, who have had sort of enormous influence on the way that this game has been perceived as it has rolled out? Do you think the game, you know, the actual people that are in charge of all, you know, the awards and stuff like that, played this game, said, have seen straight through that and gone, this game thoroughly deserves the awards that it gets, it deserves the recognition that it gets, and do you think they're trying to get more people to play it? Do you think there's a little bit of slide in there, or? Possibly.
I mean, IGN gave it a 10 out of 10 straight out the gate, and they got so much shade for that as well. Which again, completely unjust. I think I always check an IGN review when a new game comes out, particularly one that I've either pre-ordered or are desperate to play. So the 10 out of 10 kind of set the motion. I was like, brilliant. But then there was another handful of other reviews that you follow, and there's 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, and I'm just how anyone could call it. I can understand if you hated it, you didn't like the storyline or the way that the narrative plays out. I can understand that, and you've give it a low score because of that, but people were calling it mediocre, which is ridiculous. And that to me says that there's something under there. Did it win Game of the Year?
It did. Won Game of the Year, Game of the Year, I think Ghost of Tsushima was expected to get it, and you know, Last of Us kind of picked it to it, which a lot of people were disappointed about. But you know, I think, you know, if a game is seen as just by so many people that are influential in the industry, then it's probably warranted. I don't, you know, the only thing I think I was kind of thinking is that I haven't read into it because I don't want to kind of spoil the game for myself, which is you know, it's 6 months after release. I probably should have played it, you know, and considering how much I enjoyed the first one, because you know, played the first one 2 or 3 times, you think, you know, we made time to kind of play it, but I didn't. But Does it sort of stray from the original mechanics or anything?
Not at all, nothing.
Right, okay.
Nothing.
So he still is as involved. What I think my fear was is that I was going to play it and that it'd be a little bit one of those sort of push forward through a cinematic.
Yeah.
So, you know...
Uncharted does become that in a few certain instances.
Yeah, so...
Of course, there's cinematic moments.
That's exactly where I think I probably got my grounds for that for. When I played Uncharted 4, I didn't enjoy it as much as the other ones, and it felt a little bit because all I was doing is consistently pressing the analog stick or whatever forward. That was my part in the game. But
Uncharted 4 is a really weird one because it was a game that I didn't enjoy playing, but just continued until I completed it. I felt like I just had to because I played to get through it.
Right.
But
I think that is where I think that's exactly why my sort of apprehension was, and it wasn't that. I've started playing quite a few games a little bit after release because, such as I've gone back and played Mortal Shell, and those little bugbears and little iron things that I had at first have been completely ironed out. Yeah. The game's it's vastly different from when I first played it. Yeah, there's more enemies in there and stuff, and they've kind of looked at some of the texture pops and the movement and how you sort of defend yourself when you're in the middle of a strike or whatever, and they definitely have sort of adjusted them a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah. So I will play it and I'll come back with my review.
Nice.
And there we go.
Well, I've rounded up. We will continue with The Last of Us Part 2. I can either spoil it for you or you have played it.
It will be The Last of Us Part 2.
Part 2. So, I'll fire over to you, my friend.
Yes.
What has thou been playing?
Thou has been playing the future. I have finally got a VR.
Cyberpunk?
No, definitely the past in the bin. So I've managed to get VR at home. Now, I know a lot of people have sort of experienced VR, and I have too, but it's took a great leap forward in sort of with the titles that have come forward. They kind of, again, as I said, like iron out all those little sort of issues that you have with it at the start. I picked up VR and instantly thrust myself into a game or a gaming series that I've really enjoyed over the years, which is Ace Combat.
Nice.
So Ace Combat 7 has a couple of levels in there which are specifically designed for VR, and when you put the Top Gun soundtrack on, boy, is it great.
Are you there?
Yeah, it's wicked, man. It's really good.
Is it a flying simulator or is there more to it?
No, it's definitely like a sort of an arcade. It's like an arcade game, really, to be honest. You can sort of make it a little bit harder for yourself, where you can have sort of free rolling and things like that. Certainly the VR elements of it they must be quite close what it is to actually fly in a jet, because I've had motion sickness with VR before, but this was genuinely feeling like I was going to throw up because of the speed of the aircraft.
Really?
It's great. It's really, 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 really good. I would, for someone that picked up Ace Combat, the very first title that was on PS1, to then play Ace Combat 7 with a VR on, where you're actually inside the cockpit and you can sort of look around, and it's something really of beauty, man. I would really give it a go. I picked up the VR though for a specific reason.
Okay.
Now, we've both made no sort of we haven't hidden the facts for our love for the Resident Evil series, and one of the first things I did when I got the VR was play the Resident Evil 7 demo, which is called Kitchen.
Why did they do that?
Why did they do it?
Because the Resident Evil Village demo is called The Maiden.
So I think you just basically get one area.
Right.
You get one small area of the game, and that's entitled The Kitchen. So you at first you're in a sort of a chair, and you have sort of a ring moment with a good-looking girl, and then we'll show a video of that to make your own assumption whether she's good-looking or not. And then you kind of walk around the kitchen, making yourself some noodles and putting yourself a brew on, whilst ghouls and nasties attempt to scare the living fucking bejesus out of you. Incredibly scary. Incredibly scary. So I'm going to go for it. I'm a big fan of horror. Don't get to do much horror with my other half because she doesn't like horror films. So I'm going to strap a VR headset to myself and fully throw myself into Capcom's classic, which is Resident Evil 7.
It gives me the willies.
It does. So I'm gonna try Resident Evil 8 and a game that is not in VR, but I have completed and I absolutely loved, and I want to go back and try it in VR, which is Alien Isolation. Got a lot of love for that game. Creative Assembly, in my eyes, made a real true title that was so honest to that we got it there actually to the Alien franchise. You know, they kind of picked up what made the Alien film so tactile and sort of lifelike of a sort of a vision of the future. Do you know what I mean? The 70s sort of vision of the future, which was quite cool when I first watched it. So yeah, the VR is something that I'm going to be kind of having to play around with.
Do you wear gloves? How does it work?
No, you do not wear gloves.
Oh, okay.
So you, so you can either use the VR, the PSVR, as sort of just a headset with motion sensors. Yeah. Not the best VR on the market, but the Oculus 2 has just come out, and I don't know if you're aware of the new Half-Life title.
Alyx,
which is
pick
literally
the lamp up and
you can pick the lamp and throw it up. Basically, it's a game where you tidy up every room that you go into. Yeah. You move the lamp, you put it back. You pick up the washing and you put it back. So I've managed to play a little bit of Half-Life, and it was outstanding. Honestly, one of the greatest titles I've ever played in my life. You know, we'll do a VR special where Wilson gets to experience Resident Evil 7.
Oh, the Willies are back.
Yes, I think we'll do an episode where that is literally just strapped to his head throughout, and I'll ask him questions as he traverses through the horrific environments.
Job interview while playing Resident Evil 7.
Right, so wrapped up gaming for this week, I think.
Aye.
Yeah. Anything else you would like to add?
Well, I mean, we discussed something last week.
Yep.
Where we fantasise over some of our oldest and most favourite titles.
Okay.
And I think we entitled it Remake Request.
Remake Request.
And someone requested that Remake Request is back on the table.
Okay.
So here I am.
Yes.
And I would like to pose to you, what would you think if Capcom...
Yes.
I know people are starting to think that we might be being paid by Capcom, but we just genuinely love their games. Yeah. If Capcom remade Devil May Cry 1.
It'd be amazing. I think Devil May Cry 5 has took the series as far as it can go in that sort of engine, would I say? It was
the RE engine,
in the RE engine, you know. I think if they kind of went back and said, right, we're going to kind of remake some of the classics that we've made before. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking, you know, we've kind of had Resident Evil 2, which was amazing, Resident Evil 3, which was amazing. If they kind of went through and said, look, we were going to look at doing like a different spin on it, and I'd be well down for it.
Yeah.
I don't particularly want those games to be touched in that sort of format, because I think they still stand up to this day. So like, I think, you know, Devil May Cry 1, 2 and 3, 4 even, and you know, I actually do like DMC. I think those games should probably be left alone. I think they still stand up to test this to this day. You know, I mean the sort of special editions that they bring out each time.
Well, 4's got a special edition, a massive special edition.
Yeah, where they just kind of add Virgil in.
Yeah,
but it's I think they kind of stretched those games for as far as they go, and if they went back and did Devil May Cry, maybe a reboot would be cool. Those characters, I think, you know,
a DMC style reboot.
No, DMC style reboot. I think just Devil May Cry 1, but in a new with a new sort of look on it.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Rather than a direct remake.
No, rather than a direct remake.
It's funny you're saying that, because I was recently quite offended at the news that Capcom have overhauled Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
And are planning to do a reboot rather than a remake.
Right. Okay.
Which they're overhauling the whole game and taking aspects of what was Resident Evil 4 and turning it into a brand new game.
Right.
With a similar story, I suppose. And that kind of hurt a little bit, because I feel like Resident Evil is so good.
Yep.
It's probably the greatest Resident Evil ever made.
Yep.
I mean Resident Evil 2 has the recent remake has challenged it.
Yeah.
But Resi 4 was...
So Resident Evil 4 for me, I think out of the entire series has probably dated the worst. That's a big statement, but I think it's because they employed those sort of arcade elements to it, and I'm not shitting on the game at all. It is class. It's really, really, really good. But as they moved away from those sort of tank controls and they went to Resident Evil 4, it was a complete overhaul, and it was almost like they started again.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of little tiny issues there. There's as great as a game as it is, I think it doesn't stand up as well as Resident Evil 1, 2 and 3 because of those tank controls that are in there. You're pressing forward, you're pressing back.
Yeah.
Whereas in Resident Evil 4, there's so many elements to you're just aiming and just, do you know what I mean? And it does. It has kind of suffered a little bit. It has kind of suffered a little bit. So I've not got a massive problem with that. I mean, you each into their own.
Yeah.
And if some people, Resident Evil 4 is a classic and they already do. But I picked it up a long time after it came out. I didn't play it the first time round, and that's why it felt dated. Whereas I played Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 1 when they came out, so I was familiar with the tank controls. I was familiar with the way it goes, and I think for a new generation, if you were to kind of throw Resident Evil 4 at them, they'd probably put it down and go, it's a little bit dated. There are games that have come out since and I've used that sort of arcade style it's almost like a sort of a shooter, isn't it?
I know, and it's definitely got a shooter element to it.
Yeah. So there's
rather than a survival game.
Yeah, it's not as much as survival. Although when you've got a team of people running with pitchforks after you, the only way is to survive. Shoot your way out of it.
I think it was a perfect progression. From 1, 2 and 3, which are kind of bunched together. And then 4 was like a peak. And then obviously 5 and 6 just sort of digressed. I know you do like them games as well. I've never even played 6 that much because 5 was so bad in my eyes. And 6, from just looking at what it had to offer, I didn't even bother picking it up. Because it looked at it digress that back.
What do you think of Revelations?
The first one is amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
The second one was good as well.
It's alright. The first one is like one of those ones that just seemed to go off the radar a bit. I know it was massive in Japan, and I know it was sort of did relatively okay in America, but it struggled a little bit sort of in Europe. And I think it was added to the to PS Store and Xbox a few years afterwards with Code Veronica, which was GameCube. Yeah. It came out, and just I don't know. I think that is the title that I would probably go back.
I suppose I know what you mean.
I'd probably.
It's still quite fresh, isn't it? Though.
Yeah, if you're gonna do like sort of remake or something, I'd probably do Revelations. But I think 4 does probably need that overhaul.
Possibly.
In my opinion, but a lot of people will disagree.
I will definitely play it. And just to wrap up Remake Request, if they were to remake any of Devil May Cry's, I'd be desperate for a Devil May Cry 3 remake. Because again, probably the best in the series. Although I hold 5 quite near and dear because I just thought it was an absolute adrenaline ride. Masterpiece. But Remake Request.
If I got the option to do a Remake Request, I would probably go for Tenchu Stealth Assassins. I think you've had Ghost of Tsushima has had the light. The Samurai has had its resurgence, should I say? And it is time for the return of the ninjutsu.
It is most definitely time for that.
Let's bring the ninjutsu in. Okay, so I'm going to put a question to you, and I'm going to. You may not be familiar with the question, or you may be. Seen Owt this week?
Seen Owt. I do like the title. Yes. I have seen a few bits.
Okay.
I didn't watch this week, but I recently went back into our podcast back catalogue.
Okay.
And realised I have not spoken about this movie.
Oh my God.
And this movie, is Parasite by Boon Jong-ho. 4 Oscars. I mean, it's not like I'm letting in your little secret of this little South Korean film that none of you have heard of.
I thought you were going to say the South African
one. And I nearly did, yeah.
I've not seen that one.
The fucking prawn one.
What the fucking prawns?
Parasite, it's absolute masterpiece. Don't be put off by, I don't know if people are put off by subtitles. If you are, it's time to get cultured, boys and girls, because this film will take you on an absolute masterful ride of art. You've seen it as well, haven't you?
Yes, I have indeed. Or, what I was going to say, or be deaf like I am and have to watch with the subtitles.
I
have to watch it with subtitles all the time. So,
when somebody asks you what they said, what have they just said? And if you don't have subtitles on, it's a bit of a deaf moment. Keep the subtitles on. You're like, you don't even to ask me anymore. Anyway, Parasite, about the Kim family. You probably all know this. Stuck in their, it's like a subterranean apartment, I suppose. It must be like a quite common thing in the streets of South Korea. And they all sort of snake this rich family. and by snaking this rich family, they all secretly get different jobs working for the family off the recommendation of the next family member. So it starts with a tutor, because the young lad who's the main character, Kiwoo, I think his name is, his actual name, he has a different name in the house, doesn't he? He becomes a tutor, and then the son needs an art lesson. So he knows this very good art teacher who is his sister secretly, who knows a very good driver who is his dad secretly, who knows a very good cook who is the mother secretly. You see the pattern here, ladies and gentlemen.
So if IGN or any of the big boys secretly need a games reviewer or anything, I'm a pretty good one. And then Lee can get me a job as a cleaner. As we go.
So, and it works like a treat for a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
Until things go pear-shaped, and you need to watch the You need to watch the end for yourself, because the last 10 minutes of that film, I think it was the most silent my surroundings have ever been. Like the air was completely sucked out, and them last 20 minutes of that movie is the most Oscar-worthy 20 minutes of film I have seen in a very, very, very long time.
Get it watched, people. Get it watched. It was. I saw it when I first saw it. Well, obviously I've actually only seen it once. It came. I thought it was a bit of a comedy.
It's a black comedy.
It is a black comedy. It's quite funny in parts. It is quite funny in parts. But just I think for an entry into sort of South Korean cinema, if you've not seen anything of South Korean cinema, then this is an amazing way. It's an amazing introduction into that world, and you can go off on an incredible tangent of some unbelievable
Is
films.
Old Boy South Korean?
It is, yes, it is.
Watch Old Boy after Parasite.
Yeah, great film.
Again, not the Josh Brolin version that Spike Lee made. I love Spike Lee, but I'm sorry, just don't make American.
They didn't quite do it as well, did they?
I like Josh Brolin as well, but poo to you two.
Right. So I've watched something that is not quite as Oscar worthy.
Okay.
The new sort of Disney Plus series, which is Wandavision, which I actually think is very good. It takes great influence from some of the series that I watched when I was growing up. That doesn't mean to say that I was growing up in the 50s. It means that my mum really enjoyed series like Bewitched and some of the old American sort of sitcoms, things like that. So the first couple of episodes kind of take off on that, and I was interested as to who fucking hell these characters were, because I'm not massively familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Despite my interest in comics, I found them overbearing to get into, so there's so much to read that I kind of diverted a little bit and just stuck to Star Wars, it kind of looked.
I just noticed that Marvel produced Star Wars comics.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
interesting.
Yes, so Disney owns Marvel.
Oh, of course,
yes. So Disney owns us. And Disney also owns the Star Wars universe. But anyway, so I kind of went back and did a little bit of homework, because I kind of really enjoyed WandaVision. I thought it was kind of cool, kind of spin on things, and I started making my way through the Avengers. 25 films, I think there is, or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
There's an order to watch them as well.
There is an order to watch them. I skipped out all the ones with the boring characters in, such as Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and
Iron Man.
In fact, right. So we watched Iron Man last night. It was pretty good. Anyway, but Robert Downey Jr. kind of gets my nerves a little bit, and I was searching and hunting.
He's very pervy, isn't he, in that film?
Yeah, but I think it's supposed to be that they set him up as a misogynist, don't they? And then kind of bring him back in to say, he is the Iron Man. But never mind. Yeah, so I was searching for all the films that featured Scarlett Johansson in, which going from the film. I think I've not got a crush on it at all.
Ghost in the Shell. Jojo Rabbit.
Great film, by the way. Amazing film, Jojo Rabbit. But so we got to the Avengers films. Right. And the reason that I'm mentioning this, there is logic to my madness of sitting through all these films yet again. The logic to my madness is that when I got to Avengers Infinity War, I don't know whether it's just me. So there's a thing that I kind of think of, right? When I buy like a new car, that makes me sound like I've got loads of cars. I haven't. But when you buy a new car, you always start to see the same car as yours, but that you never noticed before.
Yes, agreed.
Or if you buy a new wig, then you see all the people
wearing wigs.
It's
called synchronicity, I think.
Synchronicity. Right. So the synchronicity in Avengers Infinity War. Now hear me out. is with Dark Souls. Right, so I will flash up a couple of images. Obviously, we'll now lose the monetization of this video if we ever get it. But I will flash up some images, and they'll probably take our podcast off us as well.
Yeah.
But I'll flash up some images of Avengers Infinity War. You will see several, if not multiple, references to the Dark Souls universe.
Interesting.
So I did a little bit of homework on the Russo brothers.
There's not a thing online about it.
There is.
Wow.
There is. So they went away and they wanted to kind of take a lot of sort of influences from other parts of popular culture. One of them being gaming. Now, it doesn't reference Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Right. But it does.
It's such a clear indication.
It's such a clear indication. You are literally sat in the kiln of the first flame at the end of Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah.
And I think that film has got so much to do with life and death. And I'm not like saying that it's some, groundbreaking film or metaphor or anything like that. I don't think they've thought it. Well, they may have done, but I'm probably giving them a little bit of probably a bit of heat there. But it just didn't sit with me right. It was like they'd almost lifted Dark Souls off. So I'm gonna do. I'm on my second run, my second playthrough. New Game Plus. No, I'm one.
All right. Oh, you've got New Game Plus, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm.
Where are you up to on it?
On what? Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1. Well, I'm on New Game Plus. So I'm gonna go. I'm at Capra Demon.
Oh, sweet,
yeah. So
you're just gonna go underground, aren't you?
Anyway. Fuck it, we're still recording, by the way.
Oh shit.
Sorry. Anyway, we.
What was it about?
I don't know. Marvel films. Marvel. We're talking about Marvel films. Yeah. Sorry, we got asked as usual. Dark Souls. We were talking about. It's it's a game that we played this one time.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Anyway.
Created a podcast.
So Marvel films, right? So so it's like the kiln of the first flame. So there's loads of references to it. Ridiculous, and just Dark Souls.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Marvel stole Dark Souls and bummed it.
Have you seen any of the Marvel films, by the way?
4 of them.
4.
The best ones.
You told me that you'd seen the entire universe. I thought.
I tell a lot of people that I always say I'm a big fan of Marvel because I'd just rather say no.
Right.
What, you don't like Marvel? Are you an alien?
Yeah.
But I do like the 4 films. I like Iron Man 1 and 2 and Infinity War and Endgame.
That's fair enough.
And that's all you need to see.
Thor Ragnarok. You need to see that because I'm a big Flash Gordon fan, and that definitely takes off. Like, it completely takes it off. I had the chance to meet him. The guy from Flash Gordon. Yeah.
Who's the big blonde guy?
Yeah. Sam
Rockwell.
Sam, whatever he's called. Big, obviously, massive fan, don't even know his name. But he was at Bowlers, and me and Miriam were going down. She was taking photographs. Her girlfriend's a photographer.
How is he at Bowlers?
They do these. No, they do these. They do. No, they do these like Comic-Con things.
Oh right.
So Miriam, shooter of the stars, got asked to go and do this gash rave with a lot of comic book heroes and stuff, and people that are kind of in popular culture. There was Tim Capello from the Lost Boys. The guy that does the. He was actually really cool. The saxophone guy. Yeah. He still had the same.
I always thought that was Shawn Michaels. I genuinely did.
Shawn Michaels in the Lost Boys. Where did his career go wrong?
Yeah.
Never mind. Yeah, he was there, and we kind of got there a little bit late, and he'd already left. I was a bit devastated, even though I don't know his second name. But Brian Blessed wasn't there either.
Oh.
Gordon's alive.
I know why Thor Ragnarok is a good film.
Why?
Because it's by Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi, yeah. He's did Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, and What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows. What do we do in the shadows?
Very warm in the New Zealand culture.
Yes.
I'd love to either stay there for a long period or possibly buy a house there.
Return the ring to Mordor.
Yes.
Alright. So we move on.
Yes.
We move on. We have
Seen Owt.
Yeah, we've done the Dark Souls trilogy box set, which will be released on another format. But you know, we're back to Talking Souls.
Yeah.
Which we're not Talking Souls anymore. It's just called Talking Souls, but you know, we've kind of digressed.
We set a base, we set a foundation, and it's now spread like wildfire.
Okay. Wilson, will you like to introduce the next section of the show?
We had Comics Corner, and we believe that Comics Corner evolved into comics, books, and newspapers. And nothing better than collecting all forms of archives together and put it in a grand room.
Ooh.
And it's a Dark Souls, Talking Souls, Northern Undead Asylum podcast.
Yes.
We should now call this section So, in the what are you pulling out of the Grand Archives this week?
Right, okay. Well, so what have I been reading? Well, I have actually been doing a lot of work on what is called the Cultural Recovery Fund. Now, I'm putting it out there because it's a fantastic thing that the Arts Council in England do. I'm just letting everyone know that I have spent around about 3 goddamn weeks applying for a fund that would help the venue that I work in. I work in a music venue, and this fund, if we get it, would go greatly towards kind of, you know, reinstating us as a cultural venue. I wanted to put that out there because I also would implore people to come back to cultural venues when we return
as soon as possible
for my sake and for everybody else's sake, and of course for Wilson's sake, who is in a band. So it would be greatly appreciated.
What does that word mean?
Musical group? Band of brothers? Yeah. So yeah, I've kind of worked my way through that, and then on the sly, I've been doing a little bit of reading. I've been reading film scripts, man.
Oh, nice. What have you been reading?
Well, I think it's you know, as you were saying, like an evolution.
Yeah.
So when we finally do
anything is acceptable in the archives,
the Northern Undead Asylum movie film. Then I'm going to need some inspiration. And one of the people that has been most inspirational in my life is Kevin Smith.
Brilliant.
So Kevin Smith is, you know, if you're not aware of him, he is sort of a screenwriter, he's a producer, director, all-round
genius,
all-round fucking nerd as well.
Yeah.
And he made some great films back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Called Clerks and Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
Which were 2 indie films.
Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah, Jay and Silent Bob. That
it's
came
not
after.
weird.
But they were. They were both in.
When was
Clerks? 98, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. So, Chasing Amy and Clerks were 2 of his first films, and finest films, by the way.
Yeah.
Clerks was filmed in black and white. I think Chasing Amy wasn't, but Clerks was filmed completely in black and white. And it was a guy of him and his camera, and spoke about. He kind of took all of his influences from when he worked in a quickie shop or quickie man.
Yeah. Quickie man.
A quickie man. The quickie man. Yeah, so that was a terrible impression, but yeah. So Kevin Smith has also released his books as screen.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, and you can kind of read through them, and they make for such good reading because they're just him and his mates talking.
Oh yeah. Do they have is it very DIY? I imagine.
Yeah. It's very much like you know, me and you sat here. Right, that was pretty funny. Let's write it down, and then create a whole scene or script or synopsis for a film.
Yeah.
So I've been reading Kevin Smith's Chasing Amy and Clerks screenplay.
That's absolutely fantastic. What a great one to put in the Grand Archives.
It is, straight to the Grand Archives.
BBC One, the new Room 101.
Yeah, let's go on the
Ian Wilson's Grand Archives.
Yeah, it was a great read, man. It was a great read. I will pass it on.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so what about yourself?
I've been skimming through an old classic book of mythic quality about a period of time that no longer exists or could ever exist again. It's Tom Wolfe's The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test.
That sounds I don't need to read the book.
You don't.
I just need to read the title.
That's all I did when I found
fully
this
invested.
book, and then found out it's hugely popular and inspirational in counterculture, particularly people who are into the 60s.
All right.
Of course, a book called The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test could only be from the 60s.
Yeah.
And Tom Wolfe decided to follow Ken Casey, who we know as the writer of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. They created this sort of counterculture of people called the Merry Pranksters.
Okay.
And they got this big colourful bus, and a lot of people say this is what really kick-started the 60s.
Right.
It was early 60s. And they basically went touring across America.
Yeah.
I think all the people who were involved in this bus and this road trip, they classed themselves as a band, but really they were just inspirational figures, so writers, you know,
philanthropists,
all them kind of
thespians,
and people who just really like banging acid,
and banging each other,
So they'd all read, obviously, Jack Kerouac, On the Road, very inspirational book in the late 50s. It tore through the American teenage wasteland. Everybody wanted to just get a car and hit the road and experience what America has to offer.
Hit the road, Jack.
So these took it to a new extreme. They got a big colourful bus, they got a band of idiots, and every time they stopped they had a big vat of acid. And they'd all take the Kool-Aid acid and they'd drink it. And certain people like Ken Casey and Tom Wolfe would record the experiences of this life-changing journey across America. Hunter S. Thompson was involved. He had a tape recorder around his neck. I think he was only quite... was he young? I don't think he was that young.
He would have been pretty young.
Yeah, I suppose he would have been quite 60s, young, and he was obviously brought into his world of hedonism. Allen Ginsberg involved. I think there were a lot of beatniks there. Beatniks were a bit old at that point though, weren't they? They were predominantly in the 50s. Who else was there? I think the Grateful Dead, and I even think the Hells Angels were involved in a little bit of it.
Well, they would have just got involved. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they would have just rolled around that bus.
Meth and leather. Meth and leather. I've got the meth.
I've got the meth. You've got the leather.
Yeah. So it's a really absolutely interesting book about a period of time that will never be recreated again.
Until the next cabbage tour.
Until the next cabbage tour. Not as quite as a colourful bus. The bus is quite cool itself. I mean, obviously I've seen images of this bus since reading the book, but it was just basically a rainbow bus. Every colour you could ever imagine that was painted onto this bus.
So it's like this. But basically, if you've seen the introduction to the seminal series from the 90s that we grew up on called Playdays, then I could imagine it being just like that.
Where the teacher took them through like the human body and whatnot. That's probably what was based. Somebody read the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. I keep saying acid test and thought this would make a great kid TV program.
Wicked. Well, they all were.
Anyone's seen Teletubbies at 6 a.m. in the morning?
Although they all are like Butter Moon and all that. They're all mad as fuck. I think we might even put that Playdays intro up so that we can all we can kind of go out there and enjoy it muchly.
A few people around the age of 25 to 35 will be going, oh my god, I completely forgot about that.
Erased it out of your minds. But we're gonna bring it back in there. So I think that kind of wraps this week's Talking Souls up.
Couldn't do that.
So until next time, like, subscribe, and
Hate Watch Mojo.
Hate Watch Mojo. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and
good night.
Good night.
But where does it go? Where does it stop?